Kirsten Gillibrand, who, again, is a senator who at one point wanted to, remember, she ran for president in 2020. She wanted to get all the money out of our elections. She's making some sense. Maybe she's good on some issues. She's not been good lately. She is one of the main backers of a basically like crypto green light bill called the Genius Act that effectively does exactly what Sam Bankman-Fried, who is currently in prison for the things that he did, obviously the defrauding of his investors, but more specifically, his broader project was to get crypto to go legit and regulated, even though it is deeply unstable and erratic. And if you think that our stock market is going to ruin the lives of retirees because of things like the 2008 financial crash, just you wait. But here's what she said on the Brian Lehrer Show. And dude, I've never liked Brian Lehrer. I got to be honest, but I was actually kind of proud of him. But Brian Lehrer, I used to live in New York, and back in the day, he was always very he was a fence sitter around the Iraq War. It was very well, I don't know. He was low key carrying water for the Bush administration. And that was super annoying. There was he has a call-in show. And Kirsten Gillibrand was on the phone and was asked by someone who's calling in about Zohran being a threat to the Jewish community. Not clear where this person is getting the information, but take a listen.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for taking my call and question. I wanted to ask two very pertinent questions about the threats facing the Jewish community, unfortunately, from Zohran Mamdani. There was a bill that I was reading about that, unfortunately, he wants to target synagogues and Jewish institutions which donate to nonprofits, which are medical institutions like United Hatzalah and Magan David Adam, which is like the Jewish Red Cross. So how do we make sure that Jewish institutions are protected from his plans to punish and fine?
So first off, I don't know if those things are true, but I also don't know about those organizations. We've, on this show, done deep dives into groups like the Zaka group, that is an Israeli group that posits itself as a first responders organization, but is a deeply problematic, very extremist group that mostly focuses on fundraisers, and they are usually the first people on the ground in, terrorist attack situations like on October 7th. They're the ones who've been leading tours of the kibbutzes that were destroyed. They're the ones who were lying about the beheaded babies. So they're really shady. I'm not saying these groups are them. I don't know these groups, but I'm just and I don't know what possible legislation he could be referring to. But I just want to say, just because you hear a first responders group, that doesn't mean they're always good. Of course, that being said, no group should be targeted simply because they are a religious group.
Our institutions which fundraise these medical nonprofits, which do work both here in the United States and in Israel and other countries in the world. And also, how can we hold Mr. Mamdani accountable for his glorifying association of Hamas and other terror bombings of the intifada in 1990s, where over 1,000 Jewish Israelis were killed, to his revisionist Holocaust knowledge, to the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, where Jews were mass exterminated and faced threats? He compared when Jews were killed to when Jews fought back against Nazis. It's quite despicable. I'm sorry.
Gabe, thank you for your call. There's a lot in there, Senator, some of which may be inaccurate. So I don't know. I can't fact check everything in real time. But do you know any of that to be inaccurate or accurate, including the original premise that he would somehow target synagogues if they were contributing to groups like Hatzalah, ambulance services, in a way that he could hurt the synagogues? I just don't want to give out information that's false, but I also don't want to shrink from information that's true.
Good for you, Brian Lehrer. So, okay, you're trying to do your job as a journalist, and you're trying to, say that just because this caller has asserted all these things, it's not necessarily true. And let's see if Kirsten Gillibrand can double down and say, yeah, you know what, I also don't have the facts on some of those allegations, and da-da-da-da-da, but no.
Well, the caller is exactly the New York constituents that I've spoken to that are alarmed. They are alarmed by past public statements. They are alarmed by past positions, particularly references to global jihad. This is a very serious issue because people that glorify the slaughter of Jews create fear in our communities.
Hang on. First of all, number one, who glorified global jihad? What is global? What are you talking about? Do you actually think that Zohran Mamdani glorified global jihad? No, he did not. Secondly, the glorification of the slaughter of Jews creates fear in our communities, sure. But are you saying that that's what Zohran or any of his supporters glorify? Why are you being so facile about this?
The global intifada is a statement that means destroy Israel and kill all the Jews. So
no, it does not. No, it does not. I don't have a good enough voice to finish that, but global intifada does not mean kill all the Jews and exterminate them. And I will show you with this deep cut evidence of my life, guys. This is called Left Turn. It doesn't look very good as a website because we folded in the year 2012 and we didn't do online reporting like we should have done. This was a magazine I used to contribute to. We were a collective. We didn't get paid. Actually, I got a little bit of money because I did some of the layouts, some of the cover. I designed that cover. I designed that cover. I didn't do this cover. I designed this cover. I was really proud of this one. So I've always been in left media, and from the years 2003 to 2009, I was part of Left Turn magazine. And guess what our slogan was? Notes from the global intifada. Boop, boo. So come at me, dog. Global intifada in reference to the nonviolent Palestinian uprising against Israeli occupation. Yes, there were two of them. The first one was nonviolent, was led by women and children. It was effective. The second, yes, was violent, but the idea of an intifada is to shake off, to get rid of, and that's the idea of like get rid of the oppressor. We're shaking off the repression. It's basically revolution. It is revolution. Getting rid of the oppressor doesn't mean getting rid of the Jewish people. It means ending the occupation of Palestine. Okay? It means one state. In this, back then when we were doing Left Turn, you could have had a two-state solution. Now there's so many Israeli settlements, you really can't. But all to say, well familiar with the global intifada line, and Kirsten Gillibrand sadly is not.
So these are the kinds of things that if Mr. Mamdani is elected our mayor, we'll need to assure all New Yorkers that he will protect all Jews and protect houses of worship and protect funding for not-for-profits that meet the needs of these communities. Those are the things he'll have to do as our mayor.
He would certainly say that he has committed to protecting all Jews in New York as mayor of New York. Do you dispute? Do you doubt that?
Well, and here's the thing is like, you get the sense. Here's what I get the sense of. I get the sense that Kirsten Gillibrand has no idea who Zohran is. Kirsten Gillibrand very much was hoping that Andrew Cuomo would win the primary so that she didn't spend a lick of time looking into who Zohran is. And instead of saying, I don't want to talk out of turn, I don't know him, she sort of alludes to that, but she's mostly like, I know he's Muslim and I know he supports Palestinian liberation and he criticizes the state of Israel. That's all I need to know. But Brian Lehrer clearly has done his homework, and he's like, I mean, dog, even I saw the Colbert interview. I know that he said that his first order of business was to create an anti-hate crimes task force and to do more education about hate speech and hate crimes and all of this. Like, he said that he wants to create public safety teams, right? You know, last thing you need when there's a hate crime is for, another hate crime unit, the cops, to come in and solve it. So that's why public safety units can step in those situations, in addition to like mental health crises and other that. She clearly just has no idea who he is. She just knows that he's Muslim and brown.
Well, one of the issues I did talk to him yesterday was exactly this issue, and he has agreed to work with me on this and to protect all residents. So this is something I care deeply about. And so I will be an advocate on these issues. These are things that I think are important to New Yorkers. And I will work with him when he gets elected, if he gets elected, to make sure everyone is protected. I also, on the federal level, work to get resources for all our religious sites in the state and in the city. I lead the letter for funding for I lead the letter for the funding to protect synagogues and churches and temples and places of worship across our city and state.
You mean mosques too? You didn't need to mention mosques. That's cool. You just probably slipped your mind. But like, there are a lot of Muslims in New York as well. I mean, they vote, they're citizens. So like, you're going to protect them? Because there's a lot of Islamophobia here. Do we remember the 6-year-old murdered by his landlord? Do we remember the students wearing keffiyehs? One of them who will never walk again because he was shot at specifically for wearing a keffiyeh. Come on now.
These are things that he has assured me in my one conversation that he will protect everyone. But I understand why people are concerned because of past statements. And so this is just an issue that I will work with him on for sure.
Okay, he keeps on saying, so here's Brian Lehrer trying to do the damage control, which is so amazing.
Feel compelled to say, we can find no evidence that he has supported Hamas or has supported violent jihad, as that caller was asserting. Can you?
Third time's a charm, guys. Is it 30 times he's saying, be a fucking senator, be a real leader? This guy just clinched the nomination of your party. You've never heard him express support for Hamas or for global jihad. Have you seen that evidence? Do you know something I don't know? Or are you speaking out of turn? Can we clarify? Here's the third chance, Senator Gillibrand, third fucking chance you have.
Again, Brian, I don't have all the data and information, and I've never sat down with Mr. Mamdani. So I've asked to have that meeting. I'm going to have that meeting. We will talk through all these things. He can tell me his views of the world, and I can learn them firsthand. I think the reference that I had read was global intifada specifically, which has very serious meanings that are violent and destructive. So
which he says, and I pressed him on this on the show on Monday, but which he says are not calls for violence because intifada is a much broader term involving all kinds of uprisings and resistance and things like that. So I just want to be clear about how at least he defines it. And maybe he needs to be more clear. I don't mean this. I don't mean that. He did say here that he didn't want to be the word police, even as the mayor of New York, if he's elected. But I do also want to be clear that he said he does not support violent intifada. Is that fair?
Fourth chance.
So Brian, I didn't hear your exchange with him, but if I was speaking to
girl, because you don't know what you're talking about, because you haven't done the fucking lick of research on this person.
Him directly, I would simply say that is not how the words are received. And it doesn't matter what meaning you have in your brain. It is not how the word is received.
It doesn't matter what meaning you have in the brain. It's not how the words are received. Well, how are American bombs being received by refugee camps in Gaza? How about American funded aid? How is that being received in Gaza? Oh, it's not. Oh, no, it is. Oh, but at the barrel of a gun when IDF soldiers just today told Haaretz that they were told to open fire on the long lines of starving Palestinians who went to go get food. And you're worried about fucking words? You're never going to win. You're never going to win. You have no moral center. Nobody takes you seriously. And Zionism is so clear. It lays bare this apples and oranges situation of, I'm going to elevate how your words make me feel, whether right or wrong, to the same level as international war crimes. That's what it is. How your words make me feel in a country far, far away to people being starved, to mass extermination. The words. And let's look at those words, because I do think, the way that Mamdani has answered these questions is, again, incredibly skillful and gracious.
But obviously, it's anti-Semitism on the.
And here is from the Bulwark, Tim Miller, who I don't like this guy. I'm sorry. This dude's been a Republican his whole fucking life, and now he's just like, man, can we look to other people and not Republicans who've been like on board with cutting Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid? Now they're happening. It's like, why?
Obviously, it's anti-Semitism on the right, but there's anti-Semitism coming from the left and coming from these protests. And one example I think of is this phrase, globalize the intifada, which is a very popular phrase at protests on the left. Maybe some people say that phrase with good intent, but there's certainly some people who are saying that phrase with violent intent. So I wonder what you think about that, about the phrase globalize the intifada and what we've seen as some anti-Semitism coming from the left-wing protesters.
The first thing, as you were saying, is anti-Semitism is a real issue in our city. And it's one that can be captured in statistics, the ones that you're citing. It's also one that you will feel in conversations you have with Jewish New Yorkers across the city. this is something that has to be the focus of the next mayoral administration, is not just talking about it, but tackling it. And these are the conversations that have informed our commitment around increasing funding for anti-hate crime programming by 800% in our Department of Community Safety. To the question of language that's being used, I am someone who am less comfortable with the idea.
Okay, so let's just sum it up. Tim Miller collapses those two things, which is global intifada and the, anti-Semitism and the hate speech. And there was Mamdani separating it. And he just articulated that he believes anti-Semitism is a serious issue, that he wants to address it. And then he talks about the words.
Language that's being used. I am someone who am less comfortable with the idea of banning the use of certain words, and that I think it is more evocative of a Trump-style approach to how to lead a country.
Sure, but does that just make you uncomfortable? Like the phrase globalized intifada, from the river to the sea, does that make you uncomfortable?
I know people
from the river to the sea. You guys are still, I love how people are still mad at a slogan because it rhymes. I really wish people could just be like, I don't know, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. It rhymes. So that's why we're saying it. It rhymes. Also, we would like freedom and an end to the occupation. Thank you. Sorry that sea rhymes with free.
People for whom those things mean very different things. To me, ultimately, what I hear in so many is a desperate desire for equality and equal rights in standing up for Palestinian human rights. And I think what's difficult also is that the very word has been used by the Holocaust Museum when translating the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising into Arabic, because it's a word that means struggle. Muslim man who grew up post 9/11.
So this is what he was referencing. This is what the caller was referencing, is that the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, that intifada is the translation, the Arabic translation for uprising. So that even in Holocaust museums, if you're visiting and you speak Arabic, you're going to read it and it's oh, the Warsaw Intifada. And so that's why it's it perfectly, you getting prickly or mad at the analogy being made between Palestinians rising up for their rights and, Jews forced to live in the Warsaw Ghetto rising up against that repression. You're getting prickly because it's the literal translation. In the translation, it's there. It's not the Warsaw slaughter of all the Germans. You know what I'm saying? It's just the translation. And yes, as Sammy Obeid said, and I said, Intifada is a Taylor Swift song. Shake it off.
All too familiar in the way in which Arabic words can be twisted, can be distorted, can be used to justify.
Oh, I like this point, he says.
Distorted, can be used to man who grew up post 9/11. I'm all too familiar in the way in which Arabic words can be twisted, can be distorted, can be used to justify any kind of meaning. And I think that's where it leaves me with a sense that what we need to do is focus on keeping Jewish New Yorkers safe. And the question of permissibility of language is something that I haven't ventured into.
The permissibility of language I haven't ventured into because it feels kind of fashy to police people's language and say you can't use certain words, because I don't know, I'm running to be mayor of the biggest city in the United States that believes in the freedom of speech, I don't know, because Elon or whatever. I'm a free speech absolutist, call it what it is, but there's always an exception to free speech when you're Muslim or you speak Arabic, or heaven forbid you speak on behalf of the Palestinian people or for their freedom. Then of course you have tons of limits on your speech. You will lose jobs. You will lose, contracts or whatnot. You will miss out on $480,000 from the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, otherwise known as AIPAC. Gee, I wonder why Kirsten Gillibrand said what she said. What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. Do it.